is that if you did not pay off your debts from all previous lives, then you are still very far from heaven. If you think marriage, family, and relatives are the biggest wealth in your life, then you are quite far from heaven. If you think the biggest pride and honor in life is to own money, power, and fame, then you are still very far from heaven. If there are still poisonous weeds like jealousy, complaining, anger, possession, control, hypocrisy, selfishness, greed, pride, laziness, comparison, precaution, meanness, cruelty, extravagance, waste, or resentment growing in your soul garden, then you are very far from heaven. If you never know what confession and apology are, then you are very far from heaven. If you never know about gratitude, then you are very far from heaven. If you still covet your personal property, then you are very far from heaven. If your love is only focused on a small group of people, then you are very far from heaven. If you want to control or hamper anyone's freedom, then you are very far from heaven. If you often tell your sad stories or complain a lot to others, then you are very far from heaven. If you have not returned to a childlike state, then you are very far from heaven. If the above situations do not exist, then you are just one step away from heaven. Why can you not see the scenery of heaven? Because you are too far from it. If you try to get close to heaven, step by step, the scenery will become clearer. Eventually, you will see heaven. Just have a try if you do not believe me. How to be lastingly happy. Siefing. As I lay in bed last night, the moment I nestled into my covers, a profound sense of happiness swept over me. The joy stemmed from something as simple as my bed and blanket, the bed soft and yielding, the blanket thick and warm. To lie on such a bed, under such a blanket, was pure bliss. But why did this simple comfort make me so happy? Perhaps it's because I remember a time in the early 80s when I took a train journey during the busy New Year period. The train was so packed that for more than 10 hours, there wasn't a single seat to be had, not even in the aisles, which were crammed with people. Some even resorted to lying under the seats. At around 4 a.m., weariness overwhelmed me, and I thought, if only I could have a bed to lie down and sleep in for life, that would be the utmost happiness. Vanuatu, I stayed in a round, open-air room by the sea. The heat was so intense that a blanket was unthinkable, yet the mosquitoes were relentless, necessitating at least a sheet for protection. It was then I realized that sleeping under a blanket every night is a small slice of heaven. Once, in junior high, I needed to travel over 60 kilometers to the county town to pick up a parcel. There were no buses, and we couldn't afford a bicycle, so walking was the only option. I left home at the crack of dawn, and by noon, hunger and thirst had set in. The restaurants in the county town were out of the question. A bowl of noodles cost more than 1 yuan, far too expensive for my meager budget. When I was about 10 kilometers from home, so hungry and thirsty I could barely stand, I spotted a tomato on the road. I snatched it up, wiped it on my shirt, and devoured it. Oh, the taste! In that moment, I knew that being able to eat one's fill every day is a fundamental joy. Growing up poor meant that during the summer, I had only one shirt to wear. When it got dirty, I had to wait until Sunday to wash it, as there were no spare clothes. I dreamed of the day when I would have a set of clothes to change into. That would be a true luxury. As a child, especially in winter, fetching water meant carrying it from a spring several kilometers away. The adults would start their day with this task. When it came time for me to wash my face, I used the water my grandmother had already used. I longed for the day when I would have fresh water of my own. In my youth, whenever I passed through the neighboring village of Yangjia Gully, I saw a young boy crawling on the ground, his lower limbs paralyzed. He was always covered in dirt, and it broke my heart. I realized then how fortunate one is to have the use of their limbs. I often saw people begging for food, children, middle-aged women, the elderly, all wearing tattered clothes, pitifully going from house to house with a bowl, with nowhere to sleep at night. I thought to myself, if one could have worked and strive not to fall into the plight of begging for food, that would be a truly happy life. Having a bed to sleep in at night, being able to cover oneself with a blanket, eating one's fill, having clothes to change into, having clean water to wash one's face in the morning, having healthy limbs, and having something to do every day. Oh, what a happy life. Are you happy? How to realize the value of life. Siefing. Everything in the universe has value. There is no waste. As one of the 10,000 types of spiritual life of the universe, people have their own value. Well then, what is our value and how do we achieve it? The fundamental value of our existence is to please the greatest creator. The path to realize this value is to observe the way of nature. When all things comply with the way of nature, they realize the value of their existence. When fruit trees bear fruit, they realize their value as fruit trees. When flowers bloom flowers, they realize their value as flowers. When hens lay eggs, they realize their value as hens. By spinning around the sun, the earth realizes its value of supporting life. When we live our whole lives according to the principles and rhythms of nature, we realize our human value. Any practices or behaviors which breach the principles of nature are contrary to the intention of the greatest creator. Not only will they not achieve their own value, but they will also be punished by the law. If roosters learn to lay eggs and hens learn to crow, neither will achieve their own value, and they will be punished. As a person, you need to live out your childhood excitement during your childhood, your youthful charm when you are young, your middle-age style at midlife, and your old age with calm restraint. When everything goes naturally, then you will have realized your value as a person. But we can be lured by devils and demons to give birth to many ideas, requirements, and behaviors that are outside of nature. This is the problem with people. For instance, the idea and practice of, to achieve a career, is against the principles of nature. To honor one's ancestors, to bring glory to one's group or to the state, to live high above others, to be outstanding and to win admiration, and so on are all against the principles of nature. The ideas and practices of sayings about spirits and deities, of fortunes and disasters, and of cultivating magic communications with spirits are even more against the principles of nature. The following ideas and practices are also contrary to the principles of nature. To become fabulously rich with more money than is needed, to buy several villas and houses, to have a lifetime wife or husband, to have dozens of suits of clothing, to become famous, to win the admiration of people, to become a vegetarian and refuse to eat certain foods, to boast of pride, to quit performing useful functions, to live in luxury and spacious houses and drive luxury cars, and so on are all against the principles of nature. The ideas and practices of people wanting to acquire more than their natural needs require are departures from the way of nature. Similarly, when we suppress our nature in order to achieve an objective, it is not submitting to nature, and is also contrary to the way of nature. When contrary to the principles and the way of nature, people cannot achieve the value of their existence. In commodity societies, people frantically pursue material enjoyment and amass wealth. This is a significant departure from the Tao of nature. With secular values, the more they possess, the more they value themselves. But the fact is quite the opposite. That so-called value is not the arrangement of the greatest creator, but the greed and desire of devils. A bird flies in the forest every day, twittering cheerfully, and although it does not possess or store more worms than it needs, it does not worry about whether or not it will have worms to eat the following day. This is in line with the principles of nature. If that bird were to work all day long catching insects and building a big warehouse to store the worms it has caught, then it would be doing those things contrary to the Tao of nature. The Tao of nature is everlasting. Returning to nature is the strongest requirement and the cry of the modern time. If you want to achieve the value of life, you should not nurture wild desires and ambitions or attempt to rise above others, and should not pursue things beyond your natural needs, but you should be willing to be ordinary. You should meld yourself as drops of water do in rivers and seas. You should blend yourself like a tree in the forest. You should be like a flower blossoming harmoniously in a colorful garden or mountain valley among thousands of other flowers. You should fully experience and feel that with which you have been bestowed from the greatest creator. Never try to transform nature, but comply with it. If an individual brings harmony, entertainment, and blessings to others, to society, and to nature, then they have proven to have realized their value. But if that individual brings troubles and pain to others and to society, or harm to nature, then they have proven that they have not achieved their value. Taking the Tao of nature is the most effective way to realize the value of life. Such people will enjoy the favor and grace of the greatest creator, and their reward will be found in their homeland of heaven. Improve emotional intelligence by playing one's role well. Jiefeng. Emotional intelligence refers to a person's ability to control their emotions in dealing with society, nature, and others, as well as having the courage to overcome their difficulties. Even with a high SQ, spiritual quotient, and IQ, intelligence quotient, if one's EQ, emotional quotient, is low, they will be frustrated everywhere in their work and life and will feel like a big fish in a small pond. Even if they achieve great success in their chosen field, they will not be happy and distress will follow them everywhere. Feelings of isolation and loneliness are actually signs of low EQs because those with high EQs never feel that way. Improving one's EQ is tantamount to improving one's happiness index, which is tantamount to broadening one's own path and range of happiness, joy, freedom, and blessing. There are many ways to improve one's EQ. I will only talk about one way, that is, to play your role well. How does one play their role well? Let us examine my own practice as an example to consider. In the past 2 years, I have operated a small inn in BC, Canada. Last year, the guests rated us with an overall score of 8.8 out of 10. So far, this year's score is 9.1. 8 items are scored. The scores on other items might be high or low, but the scores for the owner are almost all 10s. That is, the scores for me are all very high. How do I do this? I entered my role and always played seriously. When I serve the guests, I regard myself completely as a waiter. When they arrive, I run quickly to greet them, regardless of their age or appearance. I open the doors for them and I am attentive at the tables. I brew and pour tea and coffee for them and I toast bread for them. No matter what questions or requests they might raise, I do my best to answer and respond to them as humbly as I can. Even when they are serious, I face them with a smile. When they are about to leave, I wave them off reluctantly and give them my blessings. Recently, an 80-year-old man who came for accommodations told me that a pair of his trousers was soiled and asked if I could wash them for him. I agreed to do so, but after I took out the trousers, I saw that they were stained with feces inside and out, and they really stank. I took the trousers to the lawn, opened the hose on them, rinsed his pants, sprayed them with liquid soap, and finally removed all their stains with a long brush until they were clean. When playing the role of waiter, I never regard myself as the tour guide of life genuine, nor do I regard myself as the messenger of the greatest creator or the incarnation of God, Buddha, celestial, and saints, nor do I think about my achievements in the past. Here and now, I am nothing but a waiter, let alone regard myself as an old man with white temples. To be a waiter, regardless of who you were in the past or what great achievements you have made, just enter your current role and play the skills and qualities required for that role well. 7/10 of the guests I receive are from Europe and a quarter are from North America. They tend to be very picky so that once a problem is found, it will definitely be mentioned on the reservation website and a reduced score will be given. The guests are made up of many kinds of people, but due to my high room rates, most of them are what we call upper middle class. Several unexpected groups have come by, but when they learned about our rates, they left and went to cheaper motels and boarding houses. Therefore, because of our guests' backgrounds, they are picky about their rooms and services, but however picky they might be about my facilities, they are always satisfied with my service, with me. Because I play my role well, I get along well with the guests. Some like chatting, so I join in with them. I joke and talk about everything with my guests with my broken English and throw in some compliments from time to time. Thus, we have no barrier getting along with each other. Once there was a guest who, the more we talked, the deeper our discussion became. When he finally left, he specifically left me a business card, and I saw from it that he was a special representative from the UN Secretary General and the head of their mission. Other guests have also left their addresses and contact information when they parted, and invited me to visit them. My parents taught me from a young age, do whatever you do like you are playing, which means that regardless of who you are, play your role well. If you are herding sheep, do as shepherds do. If you are a peasant, plant crops well. If you are an official, you should be official. Of course, if you want to be a hooligan, you should strive to be a remarkable, first-rate hooligan. In short, no matter what role you play, you should play it wholeheartedly and play it well. There is a lady in Japan who cleaned airport toilets diligently for nearly 30 years until she finally became a national treasure class person of Japan. The reason is that she played her role well. Those who play their roles well whether cleaning toilets or exploring alien life, will be happy to take the initiative to do every current thing well and thoroughly. If they are sighing, grumbling, complaining, frowning, or cursing while they are working, there is no doubt that they are not playing their role well. Those who cannot play their roles well cannot be expected to play other roles well either. Those who cannot do simple things well cannot be expected to do complex things well, and those who cannot do small things well cannot be expected to do big things well. Those who cannot play their parts well will have inharmonious relationships with the people around them. First of all, their immediate bosses will definitely not like them and will kick them out at their first opportunity. Secondly, their colleagues will not like them and will be unwilling to interact and work with them. This is a manifestation of low EQ. Even if we have the ability to poke holes in the sky, if our trajectory of life places us in the role of cleaning out cesspools, then we must not resent its being smelly and dirty, but dig out the dung happily every day. Do not feel that your talents are unrecognized. Do not blame the greatest creator for being unjust, and do not blame the world for there being no wise person to discover that you are a swift horse. The best way to have a bright future is to play your current role well. In this way, your EQ will increase gradually but definitely. Absolutely beautiful things can only be enjoyed by absolutely beautiful lives. If you want to obtain something you desire, the most reliable way is to match your abilities with your qualities. If they are matched, it will come. If they are not matched, you can only sigh. In order to get rid of afflictions, change your outlook on life and value. Siefing, the sea of suffering is boundless. The sea of tribulation is caused by the wrong outlook on life and values. To get yourself away from the abyss of suffering, you must thoroughly change your wrong outlook on life and values. One cannot get rid of the worries and troubles of life by possessing more money, greater fame, higher position, or more beauties. On the contrary, such possessions can only add to one's distress, which will increase with the increase of your possession of these things. The traditional family is a sea of misery. The affliction between husband and wife originates from the mutual possession, the necessary results of which are afflictions. The ultimate way to eliminate distress is to give up possession and have nothing. Life is but a journey of life in the human world. The more one wants to possess, the more tiring the journey would be. To get rid of distresses, we must change the traditional outlook on life and values. Learn to be independent. Do not try to control others or have yourself controlled by others. Traditional culture always emphasizes mutual dependence. Actually, once man attempts to depend on something, he will try to manage and control the thing he depends upon, which will necessarily lead to afflictions. For example, if husband and wife always depend on each other and always try to use their own outlook on life and values to transform the other party, and always attempt to have the other party act and behave according to their own wills, then both parties will be landed in a miserable situation. Therefore, man must learn to be independent. The earlier one becomes independent, the less distress one will suffer. Give up possession and believe in and rely on the home without marriage and family. According to traditional outlook on life, the more one possesses, the better one fares. As a result, man is always trying various means to amass possessions all his life. For this purpose, he is always kept on the run, attracted by the possession of money and property, fame and possession, and lovers, and so on. In fact, possession is not a very good thing. Once one possesses something, he will become the slave of the thing that he possesses. In particular, man should not own each other. The outlook on life that you are mine is wrong, because the one that is possessed will feel that his liberty of life is restricted, and will as a result rebel consciously or unconsciously, which will necessarily lead to afflictions for both parties. Chanyuan Celestial already owns the home without marriage and family, which takes care of their food, clothing, shelter, transportation, life, health, and death. So they should love the home, rely on the home, and shift completely from the reliance on man to reliance on and belief in the home. Be responsible for yourself instead of complaining against others. I am doing this all for your good. This is a wrong outlook on life, which has actually added invisible burden of spirit and soul on people served, and also has brought many worries and unhappiness to oneself. Man should first be responsible for himself. Only if one is happy and pleasant himself can he bring happiness and pleasure to others, A person who is unhappy and unpleasant himself can never bring happiness and pleasure to others no matter how sincerely he has been working for the good of others. If you feel that you are doing things for the good of others, then you are placing a hope and expectation on them. When they do not conform to your will in their actions and words, you will surely feel unbearable, miserable, resentful, and desperate. Facts have proved that one of the major sources of the misery of life is the outlook on life that one should first be responsible for others instead of for oneself. Do not dwell on the past, but look forward to the future. Whatever you have achieved in the past, it is only the track of your life and the arrangement of fate, and you cannot help it. The bodhisattvas do not pride themselves on the merits and virtues. When you have spent your time and youth for others, they are also spending their time and youth for themselves. It is not a matter of who owes who. He will be plunged in endless suffering once a person indulges himself in the past, especially in the contributions he has made in the past, feeling that others and the society have let himself down and owe a lot to him. Celestial beings will make judgment of who is right and who is wrong, and Tao will naturally mete out punishment to faults and reward to merits. One will reap what he sows. As long as what we have done in the past is virtuous, then we will be richly rewarded by Tao. The past is already a thing of the past, no matter how glorious or miserable it has been. What we should do now is look forward to the future and chase the sun. This is required for a rational life. Love is unselfish devotion instead of expectation and exaction. The greatest creator is love by nature. Love is the source of freedom and happiness. If we have a heart of love, we should most willingly devote ourselves, without any regret or resentment. We should not place any hope on or attach any condition to the one we love. We should not regard love as an investment and expect repayment now or in the future from the one we love, or hope to get something out of the one we love. Actually, if we have realized that love is unselfish devotion and practice such kind of love, we will naturally be requited with love. If we are not repaid with love, we must make a check of ourselves to find out whether our love is pure and untainted. If we attempt to hold somebody in bondage in the name of love, or try to have the one we love do things according to our own wills, then we have misunderstood love. Man, it is easy to know and understand others, but difficult to know and understand ourselves. When we are suffering the torture of distress for what we feel are right, we are actually having a distorted outlook on life and values. In this situation, complaining will not contribute to the solution of problems. To get out of misery and pain, one has to completely change his values and form a correct outlook on life and value. Only if one has established correct outlook on life and values, he will immediately feel the joy, happiness, freedom, and blessing, and will have a bright and splendid future. Integrity is the first wealth of life. Xiefeng. What is integrity? It is honesty plus trustworthiness. Namely, honesty plus trustworthiness equals integrity. It is sincerity without deception, keeping one's word, and being the same inside and out. Keeping one's promises are integrity's performances. While getting along with each other, treating each other with sincerity and trustworthiness make the cost of communicating very low. Otherwise, it is high. A society in which most people are honest and trustworthy is auspicious and harmonious, while those with many who are not are dangerous and turbulent. Life's troubles, pains, anxieties, sorrows, and fears come mostly from dishonesty, while our joy, happiness, serenity, peace, and harmony stem from honesty. Therefore, although honesty cannot be regarded as food, it can reduce the cost of living while bringing good karma. There are three great treasures in life, namely, material wealth, spiritual wealth, and wealth of the soul. Among these three types, wealth of the soul is the first wealth, spiritual wealth comes second, and material wealth is last. Honesty belongs to the wealth of the soul, so honesty is life's first wealth. Since honesty is life's first wealth, its pursuit is the most important thing in life. A person who lacks integrity proves that they lack wealth in their soul and are poor in their soul. People who lack wealth in their souls must also lack spiritual wealth. Although dishonest people can obtain a huge amount of material wealth, they will never have peace of mind, serenity of mentality, calmness of mood, or safety and security. Dishonesty might enable one to obtain temporary material benefits or a false reputation, but in the end, they will inevitably pay a high price for it if not in this lifetime, than after their death. Those who are honest are angels, while those who are dishonest are descendants of devils. Those who are dishonest will definitely not have bright futures, let alone be accepted into heaven. Below is an example of honesty and integrity. I hope that all Chanyuan Celestials of Life Changyuan will learn from this story of Thea. No matter how many hardships and setbacks we suffer during our lifetimes, even when facing death, we must maintain our integrity through the end. From Zhang Daozi. On the eve of World War II, a small German trust company called the Babina Trust Bank existed and was dedicated to storing valuable properties for its customers. After the war broke out, people reclaimed their belongings, one after another, and fled in all directions. The owner-manager also made his getaway, while Thea, an employee, was still there safeguarding the accounts. Bombs exploded all around the trust bank, but Thea acted deaf to them. She cleared the accounts and found that one customer named Leg had not taken his single item back. It was a ruby worth 5 billion Deutschmarks. Thea put the gem with all its custody documents into a small box and then took all the accounts and left the building. A few days later, the flames of war razed the area of Babina Trust to the ground, and Thea also ran to escape the war. But she carried the trust bank's accounts and the gem with her everywhere. She felt that she was still an employee of Babina Trust, and she would return the accounts and gems to the trust after the war ended. The war finally ended and Thea returned to Berlin with her 3 children. However, the owner-manager of the Babina Trust had died during the war and the trust bank no longer existed, though Thea still kept the accounts and the gem. Because the gem was entrusted by the customer and the customer did not take the gem back, she had to keep it for the customer in order to maintain the trust bank's credibility. For many years, Thea could not find a job. She and her 3 children had been living in extreme poverty. In fact, Leg, who had entrusted the trust bank to keep the gem, also died in the war. The priceless ruby had long been unclaimed and Thea could have sold it quietly and lived a life of good food and clothing, but she did not. She felt that it was the customer's property. She could only protect it with no improper thoughts about its value. In 1978, the local government established a war museum to collect relics of World War II from the community. Thea took the trust bank accounts and the ruby to the government, which worked hard to help Thea locate Leg's grandson, Doyle. Doyle got the gem and promised to give half the value of the gem to her after he sold it, but she politely declined, saying that she would only charge a modest storage fee for all those years. Thea's story appeared in newspapers, and some readers were so moved by her integrity that they suggested she be appointed as the General Counsel of the Chamber of Commerce, which she declined by reason of her advanced age. Later, several large trust companies approached her and asked her to be their honorary presidents, but she also declined them. When Thea eventually passed away, several companies found her son Chris and asked to buy her name to brand their trust company with it. Chris could not decide which one to go with, so he took bids on it. In the end, the Plato Trust Company obtained the naming right of Thea at the sky-high price of 8 billion Deutschmarks. Many people wondered how a name could have such value, but the president of Plato said that Thea is no longer just a person's name, but represents a kind of entrepreneurial spirit, a kind of integrity that is more valuable than gems, and that this honor would be well worth the 8 billion marks. Soon, the Plato Trust Company was renamed the Thea Trust Company, and its transaction volume increased steadily. Integrity can create value because integrity itself is priceless. When you regard integrity as belief and responsibility, you will win people's support and trust, and endless wealth will be produced as a result. Looking back on China's 40 years of reforms, what is lacking or missing in officialdom, business, and financial circles is that priceless word, integrity. Is it not worthy of everyone's pondering? It is hard to become extraordinary if you cannot be ordinary. Xiefeng. Ordinary means common and normal, that one does not have any special abilities or talents. Extraordinary means not common, but outstanding, that one has an extremely special or good quality. Most people are ordinary, but a few great people are extraordinary. The behavior of an ordinary person does not show any special qualities, and everything they do is very common and usual. But one who is extraordinary demonstrates uniqueness and distinction, and their behavior is special. Everything about the ordinary is foreseeable. However, that of the extraordinary is often hard to understand or describe. The ordinary is like a flower on the meadow, while the extraordinary is like a blooming exotic flower on the cliffs. In ordinary, there is extraordinary. Extraordinary comes from ordinary. Without ordinary, there is no extraordinary. Ordinary is the foundation. Extraordinary is the building on it. Ordinary is the solid vast land. Extraordinary is the vegetation and flowers growing on the land. Ordinary is being down to earth. Extraordinary is flying above the clouds. One who is extraordinary must first be ordinary. If they cannot be ordinary, it is difficult for them to become extraordinary. Without materials such as oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, cabbages, carrots, and other ordinary substances, we cannot cook delicious meals with combinations of excellent flavor, aroma, and color. If we are not familiar with the original state of something, we will be unable to have a unique thinking with distinguished insights and solutions that are unconventional. Jobs such as sweeping, washing clothes, fetching water, applying fertilizer, growing grass, planting flowers, growing vegetables, carrying bricks, cooking, and the like are very ordinary. However, one who has no experience with ordinary jobs or does not strive to deliver first-class quality is far from reaching the state of the extraordinary. One who has too many weeds in their soul garden, such as jealousy, selfishness, laziness, greed, or is quick to complain, compare, and get angry, will never experience the joy and delicacy of life. An amazing article does not use special words, and a great man with excellent quality only shows his nature. If an article uses flowery language and has many ambiguous new words and concepts, it will be very superficial and will lack the necessary connotative meaning. If one tries to show their uniqueness by their way of dressing, talking, and behaving, but is not willing to do the smallest and the most menial job, then they are superficial and do not have precious qualities inside. One who wants to become extraordinary must work hard on things that seem ordinary. If one wants to write a good article, they must work hard on plain words. If they want to cook a wonderful dish, then they must work a lot with oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, other spices, and the proper amount of heat. One who wants to win a Nobel Prize needs to work hard on basic research and tests. One who wants to be a great man of the time must work hard on the daily ordinary jobs. If one cannot deliver excellence on the ordinary and only wants to pursue special behaviors and performances, they will never reach the extraordinary. Taking off the business suit and sweeping floors, carrying manure, moving bricks, digging soil, growing grass, and washing dishes will help one advance toward the extraordinary. When one is able to deliver excellence while they are still a human, they will become a celestial. But if not, they will never realize that dream. You should spend your precious time on ordinary, basic things and not to try to avoid them or strive to be outstanding. Do not attempt to surprise the public and amaze the world, but rather be happy just to do ordinary jobs and be an ordinary person. You should learn common knowledge and do not look for special methods and read special books. Behave normally, eating, drinking, working, and sleeping. Do not attempt to violate the laws of nature. Only then can we gradually move away from the ordinary and toward the extraordinary. Let us live in the spiritual world and soul world. Xiefeng, there are three worlds in life: the material world, the spiritual world, and the soul world. The world in which people are busy with food, clothing, shelter, transportation, birth, old age, sickness, death, fame and fortune, and status is the material world. The world in which people work hard for happiness, joy, freedom, and blessedness is the spiritual world. The world in which people pay and devote selflessly and unselfishly for joy, bliss, light, and auspiciousness is the soul world. A person, as long as he has always been busy with food, clothing, shelter, birth, old age, sickness, death, money, power, fame, and profit, is living in the material world. A person, as long as he is working hard for happiness, joy, freedom, and blessedness, is living in the spiritual world. A person, as long as he is selflessly, unselfishly, and joyfully paying and devoting, must be living in the soul world. The material world is heavy, the spiritual world is light, and the soul world is ethereal. Animals live in the material world, humans live in the spiritual world, and celestial beings, Buddhas, and angels live in the soul world. The life that lives in trouble, pain, anxiety, sorrow, worry, and fear for a lifetime lives in the material world. The life that lives a happy, joyous, free, and blessed life for a lifetime lives in the spiritual world. The life that lives in joy, bliss, unrestraint, and elegance for a lifetime lives in the soul world. No matter how you live, as long as you live in the material world, your life destined to be a tragedy. No matter how you live, as long as you live in the spiritual world, your life is destined to be a farce. No matter how you live, as long as you live in the soul world, your life is destined to be like paradise. Without rich soul wealth, it is better to live in the spiritual world. Without rich spiritual wealth, it is better to live in the material world. A life with rich soul wealth must be rich in spiritual and material wealth, and a life rich in spiritual wealth must be rich in material wealth. Material wealth supports spiritual wealth, and spiritual wealth supports soul wealth. Soul wealth will bring spiritual wealth, and spiritual wealth will bring material wealth. In fact, as a human being, it is impossible not to live in the material world because of its physical existence. Therefore, we must take care of both material wealth and spiritual and soul wealth. However, you must have a focus. If you focus on material wealth, it is equivalent to living in the material world. If you focus on spiritual wealth, it is equivalent to living in the spiritual world. If you focus on soul wealth, it is equivalent to living in the soul world. Between money, affection, and sex, nature, which one are you willing to choose? As humans, we need to have a little religious sentiment. Siefing. Religious sentiment is the ability to trust and surrender to a certain power, personality, or theory unconditionally, undoubtedly, and devoutly. It can make people feel tranquil and peaceful in their hearts, make people feel broad-minded and detached, not afraid of the roughness and difficulties on the roads of life, and make people have endless beautiful reveries and longings for the future. Let me first talk about my own religious sentiment. I believe in the greatest creator completely. I often crawl under the feet of the greatest creator and feel that it is the most beautiful experience in life to crawl under the feet of the greatest creator. If the greatest creator rubs his feet on my head, I will feel that it is a great glory. If the greatest creator touches my head with his hand, I will die of happiness. Of course, I don't have enough merit and virtue to let the greatest creator touch my head, so I dare not expect it. I have complete trust in Christ Jesus and Buddha Shakyamuni. I will never doubt their teachings. I often stay with Jesus. It is the feeling of a grandson staying with his loving grandfather. The holy light shines on me. My heart is transparent and spotless. I am extremely peaceful and calm. I often spend time with Shakyamuni. It is the feeling of birds flying in the woods, roosting and singing, and the feeling of eagles flying freely in the endless blue sky. Far away, deep, magnificent, solemn, auspicious, and loving. I feel so happy. I'm a little bit naughty while staying with Lao Tzu. It's common to pull his beard. Drinking and acting shamelessly with him is also full of fun. But in my heart, I admire him incomparably. What he wants me to do, I will do it without hesitation. He is so kind, amiable, natural, peaceful, also humorous, unrestrained, and elegant. It is precisely because of my religious sentiment that I have embarked on the road of establishing Life Genuine since 2001. In the beginning, it was not called Life Genuine, but the journey to transcending time and space. Since then, for 17 years, I have not stopped going forward, working hard every day, never slacking off. I never consider whether I will encounter trouble or even be decapitated if I go this way. Over the past 17 years, I have experienced countless setbacks and blows, and it is common for me to be insulted, abused, and framed. Some kind people have reminded me, be careful. Be careful of being thrown into jail by the government. I have said that everything runs in the Tao. I have given my life to the greatest creator and my life to the management of Tao. As for what retribution or result I will get, that is not something I should consider. I just follow the will of the greatest creator and the teachings of gods, Buddhas, celestial beings, and saints. As for whether I might be arrested and put in prison or even beheaded, I don't care. I am more than 60 years old, and I have lived peacefully and healthily to the age of 60. I am grateful and contented. In fact, I still think that I'm just a child, and playing naughtily and jokingly with other Chanyuan celestials is still my sense of fun, appeal, and entertainment. Having religious sentiments or not can make people completely different from each other. With a little religious sentiment, people live steadfastly, sincerely, honestly, ingeniously, peacefully, tranquilly, abundantly, calmly, and transcendentally. If people don't have any religious sentiments, they will live worriedly, impetuously, anxiously, fearfully, suspiciously, and distrustfully everywhere, always on guard and vigilant, not tranquil in mind, always with the feeling of sitting on pins and needles, or complacent and arrogant, bluffing, feeling that their talents are unrecognized, the world is unfair. In short, they cannot get any peace of mind. People are willing to surrender if they have a bit of religious sentiment. Surrender is not a bad thing. I surrender to the greatest creator, surrender to Jesus, Shakyamuni, and have even surrendered to Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva many times. I don't think there is anything wrong with that. Their EQ, IQ, and SQ are all higher than mine, so why not surrender? When surrendering to the greatest creator, gods, Buddhas, and celestial beings, on the contrary, I feel that the world is vast. I am free and at peace, so why not surrender? I am even willing to surrender to an ordinary person. If he is selfless, unselfish, has lofty ideals, and is working hard on putting them into practice. If I surrender, I have no doubts. But what if the person you surrendered to is wrong? My philosophy is this. Since his EQ, IQ, and SQ are higher than mine, he cannot be wrong, and even if he is wrong, what does it matter? Wouldn't I make a mistake if I do the same with my EQ, IQ, and SQ? Besides, what is wrong? What is right? What was wrong at one time is totally right several years or several hundred years later, and what was thought to be right at another time is totally wrong after decades of years or several hundred years. People, do cultivate some religious sentiment. We have nothing great in ourselves. Don't think that we have understood the mysteries of the universe, and we can guide the world just because we have some skills. When facing the universe, we are too small. We can't tell the difference between good and evil, right and wrong. The universe, the grand script, is too complicated, too mysterious, and too subtle. I have studied with great concentration for 17 years, and still feel that I have only got to know and understand a drop of water in the ocean. Only pious belief, with a little religious sentiment, can lead us to a smooth road and let us step into a bright future. Let us not stop a childlike heart. Siefeng. When we walk on this way, the way of the greatest creator and the way of life genuine, we are destined to devote ourselves to the land that gives birth to us, to humanity, to nature, and to all other lives. By giving out everything we have, we will achieve perfect souls, noble characters, and the life wealth which qualifies us to enter into heaven. All saints and sages have taught us to give up ourselves, no ego. Because of this no ego, we will not fight with others, we will not get hurt, and we will not have worries or fears. We shall not only devote our wisdom and material wealth to humanity and nature, but will also give our flesh and blood. We return to Satan that which is Satan's, and to the greatest creator that which is the greatest creator's. We give back that which we owe to others, and pay off the debts that we owe to Mother Nature. We have left ourselves only with perfect hearts, intact hearts with love. Let love be our guide towards higher level spaces. Let us love people around us, love life, love nature, love our nation and all other nations, love society, and love all those who hurt us. No matter what we have been through, let us not stop a childlike heart, and let us not stop a loving heart. We shall never complain, and our minds shall never be poisoned with hate or revenge. Even as we face death, we shall never let our love extinguish. We will accept it with joy instead. We only measure if we are good enough, and we do not judge society and others. We are wrong when we think others are not good. We should ask ourselves whether we are good enough. We are wrong when we think others hurt us. We should reflect back and ask ourselves if we hurt others. This is not merely psychological victory. We are not going to escape the reality and contradiction. This is not cowardice, but is actually the character that ripe crops must have. Facing our hardships, we accept them calmly. Without experiencing bitterness or difficulties, how can our will and faith be honed and become stronger? A lark can only become a phoenix in the raging fire. Silkworms can only grow after they exfoliate, and they are not able to become butterflies without first being wrapped in cocoons. Hardship is a good thing. not a bad thing. Leave all the good things to others and to society, and let them enjoy the sweet fruits of our labor, which are irrigated by our blood, sweat, and tears. We do not care about our gains or losses, and we do not own any material wealth. We only pay attention to the wealth we accumulate in heaven. Where our wealth is, so do our souls reside. Where our souls reside will be the place to which we finally go. We value and revere life, but we are not afraid of death. In this human world, death is a phenomenon from which we can see Tao in its fairest form. Today when we live, let us live happily. Were we to die tomorrow, we should accept it with joy because death is where life is reborn. If we do not die here, we will not be born there. The most important thing is where we go next. When we have the quality of a heavenly life, how would we be afraid of death? We would look forward to it instead. So, we will neither fight nor resist. Everything is within the control of Tao. Anything appearing to show a complicated form are simple rules and laws of Tao. We face any situation with love, then we are walking on the way of Tao, and we will not lose anything. If we are against Tao, everything will become void and passing clouds that come and go. Who is stronger, and who is the winner? All are tragedies of the short-sighted. Those who are awake will not fight for victory in a flash moment. Let him do it if anyone wants to take something. Let him do it if anyone uses his force. Let him be the hero if anyone behaves strongly. Let us just be unrestrained and celestial, and see who is the one who will have the final laugh. Let us not stop a childlike heart, but treat everything with love. No matter what situations we have encountered, we shall hurt neither our ancestors nor our nation. We shall not hurt society, nature, or other life beings. It is up to the greatest creator to judge who is right or wrong, and it is up to Tao to assess our merits and faults. Let us just have an unrestrained journey and deposit our love in heaven. Let it go, and let all go. Do not attach to anything. Let nature take its course, and let us just follow Tao. Then we will eventually reach our destination. Let us play the game of pretending to be true. Xiefeng. September 19th, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kair. Holographic thinking recognizes no difference between truth and falseness, just as the subconsciousness mind does not distinguish between either. The non-material world only recognizes information but does not distinguish between those two opposites. Therefore, playing the game of pretending something to be true can be very interesting. A man came to Buddha and asked, "Buddha, let 100 families provide for me." As a result, he became a beggar, and they did. A woman came to Buddha and prayed, "Buddha, let others serve me." As a result, she became ill and her relatives served her in bed all day and all night. Let us start playing now. People around a healthy man told him pitifully and seriously, "You look horrible. You must be ill." Everyone kept telling him this until he soon became ill. You can fool yourself. For example, your kidneys are both good, but you keep thinking that something is wrong with them. After a few days, both of them fail, and you will be relegated to being on dialysis treatment. You think, "It is such a pain to work every day. I wish I could lie in bed for a few days." Soon, you will be suffering, if not from a stomach pain, a headache, or nerve damage, then it will be from your having sprained or broken your leg. You will surely be lying helplessly in bed for a few days. Those three pretend games are all passive, negative, and pessimistic, and we should never play them. Let us play active, sunny, optimistic, and positive games such as these 8. If you feel ill or have a disease, then you will need to pretend to be healthy. You should believe in your heart that you are not sick, that every part of your body is well. After pretending this for a while, you will recover soon. If you hate someone, even to the point of wanting to spit in their face, then you must pretend that you like them very much and tell them things like, "Handsome, you look cool, you are the greatest." After a short while, you will no longer hate them. When you are eating but you have no appetite and the food seems bland and tasteless, you should pretend that you like the food in front of you. If you do your best to convince yourself that the food is delicious, nutritious, and perfect, that you enjoy it very much and that many people in today's world are suffering from hunger and malnutrition, but that you are blessed to have such wonderful food. Then from what had been a simple and boring meal, you will enjoy tasty delicacies. Someone is indifferent or unconcerned about you, so you should pretend that they treat me the best. They care for and love me the most. After a while, they will become the one who does all three. If you feel yourself becoming aloft, then you should pretend to be transcendent, natural, and elegant. Over time, your worldliness will drift away. If something is bothering you, then you should let others see your vigorous, high-spirited, and confident side. Pretending this way will soon rid you of your troubles. If you have expired drugs or stale food, you should think this way: panacea will be born from my old stuff. If I consume them, then all my ailments will disappear and I will also see unexpected benefits, and you will become rejuvenated and be in an amorous mood. Whatever you truly believe will be fine and good for you. When you encounter stoppages that annoy you and make you hesitant, you should think, the greatest creator loves me the most, and the ancestor of Buddha, the greatest creator, through Tao, will definitely arrange the best plan for me. Then, do not worry about it any longer, for it will surely come to pass. Keep pretending that lies are true until they become as such. You can draw inferences about other cases from these 8 instances and pretend that all ugly truths are actually beautiful lies until beautiful truths are eventually born. Such fun games require few investments but offer great benefits and are worthy of your seriously performing and enjoying them. Pretending to be true is to create a state of mind with your heart. These are the lowest levels of games that celestial beings play. We need to play them more often. Life unfolds from these 2 purposes. Xiefeng. Life unfolds from 2 purposes. The first purpose is to make life happy, joyous, free, and blessed. The second is to allow life to extend and develop into a higher space. In order to make life happy, joyous, free, and blessed, we must first differentiate between those factors which do not get in life's way of obtaining those objectives and those that do. Which factors do not keep us from being happy? Thriving grass, beautiful flowers, gurgling streams, surging rivers, free-flying birds, the ever-changing clouds, the sun and the moon, the stars above and the stones below, the earth, and so on. The vast majority of phenomena of nature do not keep us from being happy. Pure friendship, sweet love, and selfless family affection do not keep us from being happy. Hard work, plain living with collective games, sound sleep, and so on do not keep us from being happy. Which ones do keep us from being happy? Chaotic disorder, jealousy, greed, quarreling and fighting, jostling against each other, paranoia and suspicions, imposing upon others, suppression and revenge, making trouble out of nothing, being capricious, unfaithfulness, deliberately showing off and other falsehoods, and wicked and ugly things keep us from being happy. Which factors do not keep us from being joyous? Learning, laboring, working, and resting do not keep us from joy. Communicating, researching, exploring, and adventures do not keep us from having joy either. Appreciation, praise, encouragement, and mutual aid do not keep us from having joy, nor do eating, drinking, exercising, or going out. Which ones do keep us from being joyous? Repression and humiliation of the human nature, dissatisfaction with the status quo, the endless pursuit of desires, the limiting and denial of our fundamental freedoms, the denunciation of human dignity, the lack of privacy, damage to our minds and bodies, and other factors keep us apart from experiencing our joy. And which factors do not keep us from being free? Nature does not restrict our freedom, nor does the greatest creator constrain it either. Difficulties and setbacks do not shackle us, and suffering and hardships do not interfere with our freedom either. Which ones do keep us from being free? It is the families, religions, political parties, and states that bind our freedoms. It is the moral preachment, all the repressions of the mind, the limitations of the 5 elements of space and time, the requirements to have ignorant opinions, our debts and favors, all the possessions, the frame and edge of the box section of the circle, and so on that keep us from being free. Which factors do not hinder us from being blessed? Pleasurable situations and sincere content in life make us feel blessed. Yearning for beautiful things in the celestial world make us feel blessed. Being able to freely enjoy tranquility without interference makes us feel blessed. Being able to play, chat, flirt, and drink refreshing water make us feel blessed. Appreciating the beauty of things and feeling grateful make us feel blessed. Which ones do interfere with our experiencing blessing? It is the discontented psychology, the jealousy and resentful emotions, the dissatisfied thinking of reality out of time, the persistence of people, events, objects, ideas, the attitude of giving up the present to blindly pursue results, the anxiety caused by excessive possession, the contradiction between the ideal and the reality, and other factors that hinder our blessing. The pursuits of happiness, joy, freedom, and blessing are perfectly justified rights, and leading such a life is the wish of the greatest Creator and is always a paramount goal of life. Planning life and understanding life around this goal is in accordance with the way of the greatest Creator. Therefore, under the principles of reverence to the greatest Creator, reverence to nature, and reverence to life, any outlook on life, morality, values, means, and ways that can make our lives happy, joyous, free, and blessed are both proper and acceptable, but any outlook that hinders them are wrong and are unacceptable. In this way, our lives are clear, and we will always distinguish truth from falseness in everything, and we will enjoy them without regrets. The other purpose of life is to extend life to a higher level of space. Life is short, like a colt crossing the river. Centuries pass in the blink of an eye. If we are not sustained with a more ambitious ideal, if we do not aspire and pursue the celestial world, then we will be likely to lead befuddled lives, to commit sins, to become disillusioned and frustrated with the mortal world, will be prone to wander helplessly and grow dread, and end up going from bad to worse and unable to rise up after we fall. Therefore, when we go on self-refinement and self-cultivation and explore the mysteries of time, space, and life, we should also be moving toward heaven. In guiding us to trek and climb to the highest realm of life and life, Life Genuine is essentially discussing centering around these two purposes. If our lives center on these two objectives, then we will feel clear-minded and enlightened, and the cloud will be lifted. Light the sacred lamp in your heart. Siefeng. We can face problems or stumble into traps when we walk in the dark. More seriously, we could take a wrong turn and be led away from our destination. It is only when we walk in the sunlight or shine a lamp to brighten our way that we are able to reach our destination, one step at a time. As cultivators, we must first learn where we want to go. Then, we need to follow this path and not be distracted or misled by anything along the way. We need to discard anything that hinders us from moving forward, because if we are attached to something we own or are unwilling to surrender things that are unnecessary, our trip would be delayed or end prematurely. We would never reach our destination, and the result of such poor cultivation would be that all our energy and effort are wasted. The two objectives for the cultivation of a Chanyuan Celestial are very clear. The first is to lead a happy, joyful, free, and blessed life, and the second is to extend their life to heaven, 1,000-year world, 10,000-year world, and Elysium world. The only way to reach these goals is to initiate a new era for humankind where the talented will be put to good use and the whole world will be one family. No one would pocket anything found on the ground, and doors are not bolted at night, and everything is in harmony and the weather is very pleasant. This is also an era when all citizens of the earth will enjoy happiness and freedom. What we do to realize this dream is embodied in the building of the Life Genuine cause, especially the second home, now new oasis for life. In short, helping to build Life Genuine is the best way to self-cultivate. The difficult problems of the world must be dealt with while they are yet easy. The great problems of the world must be dealt with while they are yet small. If we do not focus our efforts on small things, we will not be able to realize our beautiful dreams. And if we do not combine theory with practice, or if we say one thing but do another, we will only be cheating ourselves and others. That is the trick of the wicked. We need to light the sacred lamp in our hearts. Otherwise, where and how should we go? How do we light the lamp? Trust in the greatest Creator. Trust Jesus Christ, Buddha Sakyamuni, Lao Tzu, and Prophet Muhammad. Trust reality, science, logic, and your spiritual perception. Trust the roadmap given by the spiritual guide. If we do not have the above trusts, we are not lighting the sacred lamp in our hearts. Whoever finds it too difficult to embrace these trusts is suggested not to apply for a Chanyuan Celestial. Whoever is invited to surrender their title and follow what they feel is a better, more suitable path. Do not waste your precious time and the energy of the second home. Be very clear about what you want. The sage embraces the one and becomes the model of the world. We will not desire everything and be greedy. We will not want both a raincoat and an umbrella. We will not live a new life while still wanting to keep a traditional lifestyle, and we will not have everything while still possessing personal property or any person. We shall not walk on the way of the greatest creator while still straddling onto other paths. Clever people may be victims of their own cleverness. One who does not listen to the teachings of Jesus Christ will not reach the kingdom of the greatest creator, and those who do not listen to the teachings of Buddha Sakyamuni will never reach Elysium world. Anyone who does not listen to the teachings of Lao Tzu will not evolve into a celestial, and those who do not walk according to the roadmap of the spiritual guide will not get to 1,000-year word, 10,000-year world, or the celestial islands continent, part of the Elysium world. Listen or do not listen. Follow or do not follow. Everyone is responsible for their own future, living in accordance with our nature. Xiefeng. Nature is the nature of our origin, which is the original characteristic that the greatest creator gives to each life. To follow one's nature is to live according to the nature of our origin. Why should we follow our nature? Because only by living according to our nature of origin can you live according to your true colors and live your life as yourself. Only by living as yourself can you live a life that will not have been in vain and that will conform to the Creator's intention. A person is a complex part of society. A person's life is restricted by various social factors. If he cannot break through the shackles of these various factors and live according to his own nature, his life will be a tragedy. Not many people really live out their lives as themselves, and everyone cannot get what they really yearn for because our words and deeds are restricted and our inner desires are suppressed by reality. In this sense, people are slaves of factors related to themselves, not the masters of their own lives. What factors restrict one's nature? Many. All factors that relate to oneself more or less restrict the blooming of one's nature, such as parents, children, husband and wife, siblings, culture, wave, groups to which one belongs, such as companies, political parties, religious groups, and governments, country, etc. Next, I will only talk about the constraints imposed on human nature by the three factors of husband and wife, culture, and country. All married people understand that since you have a husband or wife, your free nature is restricted, and you can no longer do whatever you want with your free will. If you want to give some money to your parents, is that okay? If you want to date a classmate of the opposite sex, is it okay? If you want to sit by the beach alone on Sunday, is it okay? If you want to eat steamed buns every day, is it okay? If you want to, so on and so on, the marriage will not work. You have to take care of the other person's emotions. You have to consider the other person's requirements, and you have to consider the other person's habits and hobbies. You are no longer yourself. You can no longer find yourself, and you are a mixture of yourself and the other person. Everyone has grown up in the culture of their own nationality. Culture has already subtly infiltrated our blood cells and our consciousness. We have already become slaves of our own culture before we know it. It has already invisibly controlled our horizon and thinking and restricted our words and deeds. The cultural devil has long been lurking in our values, outlook on life, and outlook on the universe. Its invisible power controls our thoughts, our hands, and feet, and we are totally unaware that our own nature has long been ruled by the culture that we are familiar with. For example, find one's origin, return to the birth family. Fallen leaves return to the roots. To revert to one's origin is a component of the Chinese culture. Under the control of the invisible power of this culture, people like to continue writing their family trees, and the strong desire to glorify their ancestors has always been growing in their bones. Even if they have lived in a foreign country for several generations, they can't forget that their bones are to be buried in their ancestors' grave after death. The descendants of the British Empire have the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and other territories, while the descendants of China have been bound to their homeland for generations. Even though there are more than 50 million overseas Chinese scattered around the world today, Everyone's heart is still concerned about their hometown, and not many people really treat and help to build the foreign land they are working and living in as their own home. Therefore, there has been a black president in the United States, but there will not be a Chinese president, because the Chinese always treat themselves as guests living in a foreign country. They are temporarily living under another's roof, and they still want to return to their homeland. If they have earned some money, they cannot forget to buy real estate back in China. The invisible control power of culture affects the thinking of every Chinese and makes their thinking go around in circles, and thus they cannot get out of the Egypt of the spirit. The state is another important factor that restricts humans' nature. With the existence of the state, we are endowed with the role of being citizens. As citizens, we have to bear the requirements and restrictions of the state on its citizens. If there are things that the state does not allow us to do, then we can't do them. If there are things that the state doesn't allow us to say, then we can't say them. This is called, you are only allowed to behave properly, and you are not allowed to be unruly in words and deeds. In this way, your nature will not be displayed at all. If you live in a democratic and civilized country, you have a little more freedom and a little more choice. If you live in an autocratic and barbaric country, your nature is basically suppressed, not to mention your choices. So even reposting articles in the online WeChat site is banned, and one might even be put to jail for this, let alone be permitted to have any ideas and innovations. Therefore, from the single factor of the country, people cannot live out their nature. In addition to the above three factors restricting the display of human nature, it is also difficult for people who are working for their survival to follow their nature. All those who work for the country, all those who work for the bosses of private enterprises to earn wages, and all those who fight for the future of their children are those who have to work for their survival. Almost none of them is free. A person without freedom, of course, is not able to follow his nature. There are different levels of lives. We can't say that pigs and people are of the same level of life, can we? In life, celestial beings and Buddhas are higher than human beings, because celestial beings and Buddhas do not have lives that are controlled by family, country, culture, political party, religion, and other factors. They follow their nature. The reason why we should follow our nature is to sublimate the quality of our life and let ourselves live like celestial beings and Buddhas. How do we follow our nature? Following one's nature means throwing away all the things that restrict one's nature. If you can't throw them away in reality, you should throw them away in your consciousness first, and then gradually throw them away bit by bit. This is the meaning of what Lao Tzu said in the Tao Te Ching: the student of knowledge aims at learning day by day. The student of Tao aims at losing day by day. By continual losing, one reaches the state of doing nothing, laissez-faire. He who conquers the world often does so by doing nothing. Secondly, do what you like, do what you are good at. Don't lust for money, don't lust for power, don't lust for fame, don't lust for family, don't lust for the glory of your ancestors, don't lust for your country, don't lust for any organization or group. Only be obsessed with what you like and what you are good at. Difficult? Of course, it is difficult. If it was not difficult, there would be celestial beings and Buddhas everywhere. If it was not difficult, the earth would have already become a paradise. Make a home for our souls. Xiefeng, are you restless? Are you sad? Are you anxious? Are you at a loss? Are you lonely? Are you solitary? If not, good. It means that your soul has a reliable home. If so, that's troublesome because it proves that your soul has no home, and you are like a wandering ghost, aimlessly wandering around. Those who trust in Jesus are saved because they have a home for their soul. Those who trust in Shakyamuni are saved because they also have a home. The difference between having a home and not having a home is significant. Those with a home live calmly, naturally, serenely, and happily. Those without a home live miserably, aimlessly, confusedly, and blankly. The outcome of having a home and not having a home is also different. Those with a home have someone to trust, a guide, and a destination. No matter what happens, they will reach their destination. Those without a home have no one to rely on, always blindly rushing around without a goal. When something happens, they become anxious, crazy, helpless, and struggle confusedly. In the end, due to the lack of someone to look after, protect, and guide them, they can only report to the king of hell in the end. Friend, do you have a home? Where is your home? No, No, no. The home I am referring to is the home of the heart or the home of the soul. Your secular home is just a place for your body to rest for the time being, which is temporary. It's a stage on your journey or a temporary hotel on your journey. The home of the soul is your destination, a place that is not subject to time and space, and the most ideal and beautiful place you have been searching for over tens of thousands of years. Life is infinite, but life is limited, and a moment is 100 years. It's time to find a home. Where is the home of the soul? Friend, if you know Jesus, then trust him with all your heart, follow him closely, and do everything according to his words because Jesus is a home of the soul. If you know Shakyamuni, then practice, recite, and explain the Diamond Sutra to others because the Diamond Sutra is a home of the soul. If you are not familiar with Jesus or Shakyamuni, do you know Siefeng? Siefeng founded Life Genuine, and Life Genuine is a home of the soul. Siefeng himself is not a home. He is the tour guide of Life Genuine, surrounded by a group of angels who guide you to the paradise of the greatest creator. If you don't believe in any of these, then what do you really believe? Believe in science? My friend, science is just a tool to understand nature, and tools cannot be a home. Believe in philosophy? My friend, philosophy is just a way of thinking, and a way of thinking cannot be a home. Believe in money, power, and status? My friend, can money, power, and status be considered a home? Believe in communism? My friend, communism is just a theory, and a theory cannot be a home. Believe in ancestors, parents, and teachers? Hey, aren't ancestors, parents, and teachers just like you? Where are they? Believe in Lao Tzu? Let me tell you, he didn't make the truth clear, and he doesn't want to. He rode a black ox and left the Hangu Pass. Where can you find him? Believe in gods? Okay, but which god do you believe in? If you worship the wrong god, you may never recover. Believe in Buddha? Okay, the problem is, where is Buddha? What is Buddha? Don't confuse him with the clay Buddha crossing a stream, hardly able to save itself, kind of Buddha. Believe in the Tao? Great, you have found the home. But do you know what the Tao is? Can you understand the meaning of the Tao without guidance? Don't rush. A tiny mistake can lead to serious consequences. Believe in yourself? Oh, my friend, who are you? Once you figure out who you are, you can find the home. Don't say, I am my father's son. I am my son's father. That's meaningless. My friend, it's better to find a home early, let your wandering soul settle down, and give your spirit a place to go. You don't listen? Then wander around. But let me tell you, when the time comes, you will be homeless. Man is not born of original sin. Siefeng, is nature good or evil? This controversial issue, which has been debated for thousands of years, finally gets answered correctly from Life Genuine. Good and evil are not the properties of nature, but are determined by material logic. In other words, when the material content is achieved through the content of consciousness, there will be the distinction between good and evil. Nkuan Buddha of Life Genuine said this: there is no right or wrong or good or evil on the level of consciousness. Consciousness only reflects the results achieved by material logic. Right or wrong and good or evil is determined by material logic. Meeting the material logic that creates the totality is right and good. Destroying the material logic that creates totality is wrong and evil. Therefore, from the point of view of pure consciousness, on that level, there is no right or wrong. However, if consciousness appears and uses the content of consciousness to achieve material content, then the consciousness can be right or wrong and good or evil, which is determined by the material logic that achieves the content. For example, the information stored in a computer is binary, whether good or bad. Does not have a right or wrong, or good or evil nature. The right or wrong and good or evil is the result of the application of the information on a physical level. Likewise, scientific principles can improve the lives of people, but can also manufacture weapons to destruct human life. Similarly, on the consciousness level of the universe, that is, alaya consciousness, there is neither right and wrong nor good and evil. The consciousness of the universe only truthfully records the data of material cycle, data of life's consciousness, and activities in the universe. The right or wrong and good or evil of the universe is determined by individual consciousness of life. And the individual consciousness that decides the good or evil is determined by the application of the consciousness of life on material logic. And the right or wrong and good or evil that reflects the application of material logic is determined by the totality of the material cycle. As a result, both arguments of nature is evil and nature is good are wrong. Well, what does Life-Chanuan say on the issue of whether we are born into sin or not? We are not born as such. Sin is the result of the incomplete and imperfect social operating mechanisms of human society and is not innate. The root causes of the suffering of human societies for thousands of years lies not with sin, but with the imperfect operating mechanism of human society. If the operating mechanism is complete and perfect, people will not sin, but if the operating mechanism is not good, people may sin. Let's examine whether our conclusion is correct or not. Shinkoin Buddha has given us the following example. 6 people live in an apartment with only one toilet, so the use of the toilet becomes a problem which leads to conflicts with unpleasant results. Sin thus comes along. If the conflicts due to the unreasonable limitation of the toilet are resolved, say, by building a second toilet, then they will be lessened, and if we built a third toilet, the conflicts would be minimized even more and the so-called sins would not arise. Therefore, the sin caused by toilet use was not innate, but was from the restrictive design structure of the apartment. If we compare sin to flies, we have to ask where flies come from. If we go to a place with a clean and beautiful environment, we see hardly any of them, but if we go to a relatively dirty and messy environment, we will see many flies. This is true. Actions speak louder than words. The fact has proven that flies do not come from nowhere, but from unclean environments. In Chinese history, there were many instances of peasant uprisings, including the revolution of Chinese workers and peasants under the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party. What led to that? Did the peasants and workers naturally want to revolt and rebel? Absolutely not. Uprisings and revolutions are caused by bad social operating mechanisms. If the social operating mechanisms are good, especially if the distribution of the means of production is reasonable, there will not be any rebellions or revolutions. The corruption in the Singapore government is less than in the Chinese government. Could it be that Chinese officials have innately corrupt hearts? No. There is something wrong with the government's operating mechanism. There is anger and there are conflicts between wives and husbands, and sometimes there are the phenomena of affairs outside of marriage or bigamy and so on. Could it be that people are born to be angry and to have conflicts with each other? No. They are the results of the survival mechanism, marriage mechanism, and family mechanism. If there were no marriage, then there would be no family operating mechanism, and these phenomena could have been avoided. The world's population is now reaching 6.8 billion, right? This enormous population is drastically depleting our natural resources. The pollution of air, water, and all the natural resources on Earth is a testament to our overpopulation. Fierce competition and a series of overt and covert conflicts result, upsetting people both day and night. What are the reasons? The reasons are because there is something wrong with the social operating systems. It is not that people are sinned, not at all. In short, man is not born sinned. There is the saying of forcing young girls of good families to prostitute themselves and forcing boys to join the rebels. Who forces? It is the social operating mechanism that forces. As I have said before, the core crisis of mankind is the crisis of the soul. Well then, I am now saying that man is not born from sin. The sin is caused by bad social operating mechanisms. Are they contradictory? Are the Chanyuan values themselves creating paradoxes? No and no. Good social operating mechanisms need to be built by people with beautiful souls. Without beautiful souls, good social operating mechanisms can never be built. So the construction of the soul is the first requirement, but beautiful souls are not enough. We must construct a good social operating mechanism with beautiful souls. Otherwise, the beautiful souls will not be sustained for very long. This is more like the love between men and women. At first, everything goes fine, but if they do not build operating mechanisms to reinforce their original intentions, conflicts will soon develop which will either lead to their breaking up or to their struggling in pain for a lifetime. All religions, including Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism, and others, have problems on establishing good social operating mechanisms. All the various cultivation groups, including the Indian ones, the Chinese ones, recent spiritual practice groups in the West, and others have ignored the establishment and construction of good social operating mechanisms. All political parties, especially the Communist Party organizations under the guidance of Marxism, are working hard to build better social operating mechanisms, but they neglect the greatest creator and the construction of the human soul. If political party organizations neglect the greatest creator and the human soul, they cannot build good social operating mechanisms, despite how hard they might try. If religious organizations ignore the building of good social operating mechanisms, then regardless of what they claim, whether it is the reappearance of Jesus, the reincarnation of Maitreya, deity celestial beings descending to earth, the reappearance of Dharmakakra, or threats such as impending catastrophes or the apocalypse, are useless and unhelpful to the world. If cults conjure up their spirits and deities, describe fortunes and disasters, and escapes from reality, lead befuddled lives as if drunk or in a dream, study sorcery and witchcraft, and play with spells, their members could never become celestial beings or Buddha or get away from the 6 worlds of reincarnation. For them to even re-emerge human, an afterlife would be very difficult. If you sinned in your previous life, then you have been punished. If your ancestors sinned, they had to bear it. But that has nothing to do with you. A king's children may not be kings or queens. A thief's children need not necessarily be thieves. Man is not born into sin. Whether we are sinned or not depends on whether we revere nature, revere life, revere the greatest creator, and whether we take on the way of the greatest creator. Material wealth cannot save the soul. Xiefeng, March 9, 2023. Edited by Qin Yu. If a person's soul is corrupt, will giving them $15 million make their soul noble? In 2002, a 19-year-old British man won £10 million in the lottery, equivalent to 83 million yuan. Before winning the lottery, he worked as a garbage collector. 8 years after winning, he returned to his job as a garbage collector because he spent all £10 million on drugs, gambling, and prostitutes. In Canada, a woman won a lottery prize worth $10 million. She used the money to buy luxury cars, designer clothes, travel the world, and spent all the $10 million in just 9 years. Eventually, she ended up with no money left. A man named David from Australia won a lottery prize of 10 million Australian dollars in 1998 and then invested in various ventures, but all his investments failed, and he lost all his prize money. His wife could not bear the drastic change in their life and divorced him, and his son got into legal trouble because of him. An American man named Edwards won a lottery prize of 27 million dollars, but he wasted it all on drugs and eventually became addicted. He lost all his money, and his wife divorced him and remarried. He died alone in a hospice. Looking at the thousands of corrupt officials exposed in China in the past decade, they became rich, not just by taking a few million but often billions. And what was the result? Not only did they embezzle and abuse the law, but they also oppressed the people. The fact is that material wealth cannot save the soul. To think that having money will make a person noble and turn them into a sage or a saint is undoubtedly a wrong notion. Therefore, when a person makes pursuing material wealth the main theme of their life, money will undoubtedly bring not the sublimation of the soul, but the degradation of it. Money is just a form of energy that can make a cabbage grow bigger, but it cannot turn a cabbage into a peony. When you see a very wealthy person, do not assume that their soul is noble. What you see is just a big cabbage. The conclusion is that material wealth makes the base soul baser and the noble soul nobler, but material wealth itself cannot save a person's soul. It is soul and spiritual wealth that can save a person's soul. Therefore, the focus of one's life should be on pursuing soul and spiritual wealth. Even if a swan is thin, it cannot be compared to a fat crow. Even if a swan is thin, a fat rooster cannot match its elegance and nobility. Navigating for life and life. Xiefeng. Glorious flowers in spring and solid fruits in autumn. Heat in summer and cold in winter. Season after season, the cycle has no end. Streams gurgling through the ages, ebb and flow are just like this since the ancient times. Looking up in the sky, it is forever the same. Looking down the trees and plants, they blossom and wither. So many things are long-lasting, evoking our admiration. Unfortunately, life is short. Life flies like a colt crossing a stream. Young and pretty yesterday, old and faded tomorrow, and the past tenderness went by like the running river. The happiness appears on the eyebrows is as transient as a fleeting cloud, hard to retain. Life, for all living things, is a tragedy. From the long human history, generation after generation, the reproduction has been ongoing and endless, but when focusing on a single organism, we find that everything is so short, like a flash in the pan, like a dream. Whether it was the emperors, the gifted scholars, or beautiful ladies, or all sorts of common people. Whether it was the ones with unmatched achievements, the extremely wealthy, or the unknown poor, they were all hurried passengers. In the end, all is void. When life shows its dark, mean, dirty, and hypocritical face, the course of life is a kind of unspeakable pain and anxiety and a tragedy. When life reveals its bright, noble, pure, and sincere face, the journey of life is so relaxed, satisfactory, happy, and joyful, and a comedy. But no matter how long the comedy plot can be staged on, life will eventually close someday, and will be the sad moments. Flowers will die, do what you may. Well then, what is left for us? What is the point of the things, people, achievements, principles once we were persistent in? Trials and hardships rush around. What do we gain in the end? What is the value and meaning of life? To turn the life tragedy into life comedy has been the dream earnestly pursued by the sages and saints. Throughout the ages, whether insignificant or great, ordinary or extraordinary people, they went wave upon wave and tried to unveil this ancient mystery, guiding the short life to reach the eternal shore, cloaking the joyful, splendid dress for the tragic life, extending the limited trip to unlimited broad life field. Unfortunately, from the ancient Greek philosophers to the Oriental saints, from the Indian gurus to the Western masters of spiritual practice, none of them has offered us a convinced, complete picture. Even the great Buddha had not illustrated all. The Holy Christ did not give us a clear path either. Thousands of years of human tragedy urged us to continue exploring and trekking along the path taken by our ancestors. Where is the path best life path leading to heaven? What will be sight at the end of life? Life is a journey, no matter how we reincarnate, even reincarnate 1,000 or 10,000 times in the mortal world. If our memories are one, then our life in the mortal world is only but one time, not knowing our previous life or our afterlife. How do we connect to the previous life and afterlife, and what is the significance? Only those who clearly understand their past and can see the future are leading a sensible life. And only such people can turn tragedy into comedy and enter to the realm of freedom from the realm of necessity, to enjoy wonderful taste and splendid style in the journey of life. Over the mountains and across the rivers, when can we enjoy the dense willow trees and bright flowers? At the vast expense of the sea, what direction is the best course? With no goals and directions, how can we get out of the confusion? When we rack our brains for the temporal loss and gain, for possession, and when we feel anxious and sparing no efforts for holding all the possession, are we missing the best time of life and delaying the big things of life? The human tragedy lies in that each of us has life, but by the time when death comes, we are still unclear about what life is after all. Heaven is not far away ahead. Regrettably, people cannot see it. It is not only is the tragedy of the lost, but also the pain and sorrow for the clear-minded. Through the efforts of thousands of years, particularly with the guidance and teachings of Jesus Christ, Shakyamuni Buddha, the immortal Lao Tzu, Prophet Muhammad, and sages and saints, we finally walked out of the long night to see the dawn of light, and we finally can point a clear path for the value and meaning of life, and a clear future for life. The meaning of life is to pursue happiness, joyfulness, freedom, and blessing. Anything meeting this standard is correct. Anything goes against this standard if confusion and pain. The value of life lies not in what we can obtain and possess in the mortal world, but in sublime the quality of life, improve the non-material structure, ultimately attain immortality. Life is a short trip of life in the mortal world. Life comes to the mortal world is determined by the gravity of each individual life. This gravity, for the public, is made up of debts. For special figures, is decided by missions. Human beings, once have paid off the debts and have lived by as the greatest creator wills, by following the nature, can lay the foundation for going to heaven, the thousand-year world, or the Elysium world. The future of life depends on the thinking and doing of life journey. Where we move our steps, where we will go. Never be arrogant in the kingdom of the greatest creator. Xiefeng. Everyone who lives in the second home, now new oasis for life, should always remember that everything we get from the community is a gift bestowed by the greatest creator. Compared to his mercy, what we do for the second home is nothing. Therefore, we should always keep a humble attitude and never be arrogant. Arrogance is a characteristic which matches neither a Chanyuan celestial's quality, nor is it in harmony with life in the kingdom of the greatest creator. Arrogance is a quality of the devil, not that of Buddha. It is a weed in our soul garden which must be removed. Therefore, no matter how knowledgeable we are or how much we have contributed to the second home, even if we are very intelligent and capable, we should never be arrogant. The symbols of arrogance are to think that the second home would not still exist without us, to think that we play a very important role and the second home will not be able to sustain without us, to think that we are very wise and intelligent, superior to our brothers and sisters, to take everything for granted and think that the community should meet all our requirements. If there is any request that cannot be satisfied, we get upset and become pessimistic. To think very highly of ourselves and condemn and criticize other brothers and sisters. To think that our brothers and sisters are not as outstanding as we, and become lazy and no longer participate actively in the building of the second home. To think that the second home owes us, are not willing to accept criticism, and always think that we are right. To always want to do office work or be the leader of the community, not willing to do dirty and heavy labor. To always show off and want everyone to admire us. To criticize, condemn, and ridicule others. Arrogance is a symbol of narrow-mindedness, shallowness, ignorance, and an uncivilized character. It is also the watershed that divides the celestial from the devil, and one of the most important symbols of a flawed soul. Therefore, everyone should be mindful not to let arrogance invade your soul. No matter how great we think we are, how outstanding we seem to be, or how much we have contributed, no matter what position we are at and are admired by how many people, no matter whether we are an expert, a celebrity, a high-ranking official, a rich man, or have a doctor's degree, once we enter and live in the second home, we need to think of ourselves as the most ordinary and in lowest position, and always keep a humble heart. We enter the second home not for position, fame, and power, material comforts, beautiful women, or handsome men, and not for glorifying our ancestors or passing a good reputation to 100 future generations. Rather, we are here to perfect our souls, repay our debts from previous lives, and accumulate our treasures in heaven, then go to the Elysium world. Once we have a feeling of arrogance, we will not be able to go forward, and we will make mistakes and ruin our futures. It will also become an obstacle to building our ideal community. Eventually, all our most beautiful dreams will become void, and we will regret that forever. Please, always return to the starting point and fly in the space of the Pure Land. You will see different scenery. It is also one of the best ways to reach heaven. On the Trinity. Xiefeng. Firstly, the God in the Old Testament of the Bible is not the real God, and I briefly explained this in the chapter of the greatest creator. The greatest creator has 8 major characteristics: unique and exclusive, amorphous, neutral, mysterious, impartial, merciful, supremely powerful, and intelligent. The God in the Old Testament of the Bible does not possess these 8 attributes. If anyone disagrees with these 8 attributes, please refute them. If there is no objection, please provide evidence from the Old Testament of the Bible. The existence of the greatest creator is unquestionable. If anyone doubts the existence of the greatest creator, please debate with me. To understand the greatest creator, one needs to rely on spiritual enlightenment, which is achieved through observing the universe and then gaining enlightenment. Jesus is the spokesperson for the greatest creator on earth, but Jesus is not the greatest creator. The blind spot of the entire Christian world lies in confusing the difference between the greatest creator and gods. The greatest creator is the greatest creator, and gods are gods. The greatest creator is unique and exclusive, while there are many gods. Jesus is a god, but not the only one. So Jesus is not the only God. The universe created by the greatest creator has scientific laws, and science and reason are important tools for understanding the greatest creator. The Bible speaks of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, which is correct. God the Father refers to the greatest creator, God the Son refers to the gods created by the greatest creator, and the Holy Spirit refers to the greatest creator's consciousness, which is the Tao described in the Tao Te Ching. This Tao is the law, blood, and driving force of the universe. God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit can be said to be the Trinity. Jesus is the Son of the greatest creator, so his thoughts are homogeneous with the greatest creator, but the Father is the Father, and the Son is the Son. The Father is not the Son, and the Son is not the Father. The doctrine of the Trinity in Christianity is, the Father is the greatest creator, the Son is the greatest creator, and the Holy Spirit is the greatest creator. But there are not three greatest creators, only one. The problem with this doctrine of the Trinity lies in treating the Father as the Son and the Son as the Father, which violates ethical principles. Even more seriously, it confuses Jesus with the greatest creator himself, which directly confuses people's vision, makes people easily deviate from the Tao, and makes it difficult for them to recognize the true greatest creator. Jesus said, "The Father is greater than I." John 14 verse 28. Jesus prayed to the greatest creator, saying, "Let your pleasure, not mine, be done." Luke 22 verse 42. These words of Jesus prove that Jesus himself is not the greatest creator. So why do many Christians insist on seeing Jesus as the greatest creator himself? This is a great mystery of the Bible, and partly the reason why the God in the Old Testament is not the real God. There are people who want to block people's vision, prevent them from seeing the flaws in the Old Testament, and prevent them from recognizing the true God. At the same time, by elevating Jesus' status, they negate Jesus' teachings and lead people away from Jesus. So where is the mystery? It is not time to reveal it now. I hope everyone will read the Bible deeply, but not blindly. Continuously ask questions and repeatedly ask, why? 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 Everyone can directly face the greatest creator, and if your spiritual perception is sensitive enough, you can see the greatest creator and communicate with the greatest creator directly. The true scripture that spreads the way of the greatest creator is not the Bible, but Life Genuine. The one who truly spreads the bright way of the greatest creators is Jesus, not anyone else. However, to fully understand the way of the greatest creator, we must learn the Bible, the Quran, Buddhist scriptures, the Tao Te Ching, and scientific knowledge. Just learning from books is not enough. We must grasp any phenomenon in nature and human social life, then trace it back to the origin of the universe and the origin of life. Only then can we truly understand the way of the greatest creator. Out of the smog of human nature. Xiefeng. Under the smog, the sky is dim, the ground is low and deep, the sun is weak, the mountains are gloomy, and the rivers are crying. The species are weeping. Everything is desolate, melancholy, and sorrowful. If you don't get out of the smog, your spirit will become weakened, your soul will become wearisome, your body will become sick, and your future will be like a desert. The deepest smog is the smog of human nature. Under the smog of human nature, psychology will be deviant, the truth will be twisted, good and evil will be disguised. The status quo will be distorted, people will be at a loss and won't know what to do, humanity will get lost, and their direction will become confused. Falsehoods, evil, and ugliness will become rampant and unimpeded. Truth, goodness, and beauty will be shackled. With a little carelessness, people will fall into the wrong path, fall into hell, cause a sad ending since a single slip may cause lasting sorrow. The smog of humanity originates from the pollution of human nature. This nature is pure, bright, and spotless, like a mirror. But people have to eat, wear clothing, have shelter, live, grow old, become sick, and die. People need to be safe, be respected, and to take care of their blood relationships, to show their ability and talents, to glorify their ancestors, and to leave behind a good name forever. Therefore, people will not be at peace. They must struggle, pursue money, power, status, fame and fortune, and beauty. In this way, the mirror is crept by dust, Human nature is polluted. Anxiety, worries, resentment, anger, fear, contending, confrontation, illegality, and other sentiments arise, forming a smog over human nature. Under the smog of human nature, chaos clusters and contradictions multiply, confrontation is intensified, and people will be trapped in the smog of tornadoes, and it will become hard to distinguish directions. Because people are impetuous, it is difficult for them to be quiet. Every day, they are involuntarily submerged in a sea of countless information, drifting along, rushing around like ants on a hot pan. With their moods swinging and their thinking confused, they struggle in a haggard state of mind. For a while, they are ecstatic and in high spirits, seeming to have become the masters of life. For a while, they complain and resent the heaven and earth, fall into a mixture of grievances and anger, and become listless and depressed. For a while, they chuckle to themselves. For a while, they get dispirited. For a while, they feel like they know everything in the world. For a while, they feel like they have fallen into a bottomless abyss and don't know what to do. The irony is that the more severe the smog of human nature becomes, the more people will have the feeling of everyone is sleeping but I am awake. But when a wave hits them, they will find that they have been drawn into the mud of a clever person who may become the victim of his own ingenuity, trapped in a prison, or have been abandoned by the times. One should get out of the smog of human nature. In the smog of human nature, you cannot tell goodness from evil, and cannot distinguish what is true from what is false. You reap beans from melon seeds, and reap melons from bean seeds. You can't see any light or hope. Those who are free and unrestrained are not celestial beings, but spirits and monsters. Those who are severely attacked are not devils but Buddhas. At this time, you must light up the sacred lamp that is in your heart, remain true to the bottom line of your human nature, and you must not go with the wave of the times. And do not trust the instigation and incitement from any information. Guard your own field, don't try to fish in troubled waters, and don't take any chances, because when the smog clears, the purity of the earth will be restored. All the muddy water will sink into the abyss. What belongs to the greatest creator will return to the greatest creator, and what belongs to Caesar will return to Caesar. A pure heart will suffer under the haze of human nature. The more you suffer, the more you should keep the sky of your soul clear. Reduce desire, restrain impulse, communicate more with Jesus, Shakyamuni, and Lao Tzu, and don't try to look for shortcuts, don't worry. The more anxious, the more disorderly you are, the more you should let your impetuous mind calm down. Watch the development and evolution of the situation. Firmly believe that the sandstorm will pass, and believe that light will come after the darkness. Karma is the iron law of the universe. Don't focus on one thing, one time, or one life. What you give and what you receive is always equal. Those who do not want their faults to manifest themselves in the light should ensure that nothing amiss lurks in their darkest closets. Your elation today cannot avoid tomorrow's wretched circumstances. In this life, things may have occurred according to your wishes, but it will be difficult to protect your next life from being shackled and slaughtered. When competing in the time of a flintlight, what is a long time? When contending for the space as big as snails' horns, what is success? Remain undisturbed whether granted favor or subjected to humiliation. Watch leisurely flowers blooming and falling, with no intention to leave or stay, but follow the clouds scudding along. Push aside the smog of the world with no completion of flame and ice existing in your chest. Eliminate the contempt and parsimony in your heart, and the fragrance of flowers and chirping of birds will always appear. If your heart is luminous, there is a blue sky even in a dark room. If your thoughts are dark, there are ghosts even in the day. Between ignorance and cleverness, I stick to ignorance but remove cleverness, to leave some righteousness to return to the world. I'd rather refuse riotous profusion than choose indifference, to leave a clear name in the universe. Broken walls where foxes sleep, deserted platforms where rabbits walk on, all were places of singing and dancing in previous days. Yellow flowers covered with cold dew, withering grasses looming in the mist, all belong to the battlefield of the old times. Who won? Who lost? Who was complacent? Who was frustrated? Don't live in the present, but live in the future. When looking at the future, the mountains and rivers will be splendid, the weather will be favorable, The worthy person fully utilizes their talents. The whole world is as one family. Everywhere will be Xanadu, poetic and picturesque, and happy laughter and cheerful voices will always be overwhelming. The suffocatingly beautiful era that mankind dreams of is approaching all civilized people. Please be honest. Xiefeng. Jesus Christ told us, you should call a spade instead of beating about the bush. It is evil to say anything untrue. Honesty is the best policy. Honesty is the most solid steps that lead to the heavenly kingdom. You must be honest and avoid lying and cheating. Just tell things as it truly is, and say yes to mean yes and say no to mean no. You should act and think in the same way. You should be consistent in words and actions. You should not engage in double dealing. Honesty is the quality of celestial beings and angels of citizens in the heavenly kingdom. Lying is the quality of monsters, demons, goblins, and devils of citizens in hell. There are gods and deities just 3 feet above our heads. Even whispers in human world can be as sonorous as thunder to heaven, and even cheating in the dark chamber are clearly visible to magical eyes. Please keep in mind that gods and deities can pierce all your mental activities. A clever person may fall victim to his own cleverness. Any person who resorts to cheating may eventually become the victim of cheating. In this home of ours, we must be honest to the guide. The more honest we are, the greater benefit we will have. The less honest we are, the greater losses we will suffer. If you tell a lie, I can see most clearly, no matter how good a disguise you have put on. Even if you have temporarily hoodwinked me, you will be exposed very soon and I will see through you. When I know that you are a dishonest soul, you are already worthless in my heart. If you cheat me, I will also cheat you, and I will treat you in the same way as you have treated me. When you are extremely pleased with the thought that the guide does not know he has been hoodwinked by your blandishments, I can actually see clearly through all your trickery but just feign foolishness and let you display your smartness. Eventually, the fool is not the guide, but you who think you are the cleverest. The honest person is the most intelligent. The dishonest person is the most foolish. We should not beat about the bush. We should seek truth from fact and tell thing as it really is. The honest people may suffer temporary losses, but will eventually be richly rewarded. The dishonest people may be pleased with temporary success, but will ultimately be dealt with severe punishment. Be honest to an honest person. Be dishonest to a dishonest person. But keep in mind, we should be most honest to the greatest creator. We must be most honest to God, Buddha, celestial and sages. We must be most honest to our superior. We must be most honest to the guide of life and life. Pursue sincerity, kindness, and beauty, and shy away from falsity, evil, and ugliness. Xiefeng, the theory of Taiji tells us, the created universe carries the yin at its back and the yang in front. Sincerity coexists with falsity,